Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larosiliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larosiliere. Today's guest is Matthew Gutchess from Gutchess Lumber. How you doing, Matthew?
Well, I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I'm just curious, have you been on many lumber podcasts or wood-related podcasts?
I have not. This would be my first podcast.
That's awesome.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's maybe to recap, I first got started in this industry because I married into a lumber sawmill builder family, and about 8 years ago, I was thinking of a new business, and instead of coming up with a business myself, I thought, what if I came up with the business of the passions of other people? So I'm looking at my father-in-law on his iPad, obsessing about lumber and in forums, looking at tools, looking at blogs to buy, just like everything. And I was like, I bet you there's more people like him. And lo and behold, there's this whole, big industry that I've been working in the last 8 years. And I started the podcast literally to get your stories out. Because people don't know that you exist. Because that was the number one thing that people said to me as I went around talking to people. They're like, I wish I knew I wish more people knew that I existed, right? Like they see your byproduct, they see your end product, but they don't know the stories behind it. So that's just a little context for you and for the listeners, So tell us about Gutchess, right? 120 years. I'm assuming you're not that old, so you're. tell me the high level story.
Sure. Yeah. Well, sometimes I feel that old, but I think, Steve, I think you've got a great concept there because we, as an industry, really haven't told our stories effectively, and I think this has been a major challenge, but also an opportunity to finally start doing it. Join the 21st century, become part of what will hopefully be solutions for our society. But I'm not 120 years old, although I feel like it sometimes. But so my business goes back at least 5 generations. We have records of a sawmill, with horses, bringing logs to a sawmill, dating back to 1904. We may have been in business before that. We really have no records before '04. So we use that as our founding date. And that was a completely different world, back around the turn of that century. New York State. We're based in central New York as our headquarters, and our first mills. We're here, but the landscape would have been completely different. Would have been primarily farms. Would have been about 20% forested, with 80% farms, and the soils and such. We're okay, but the Midwest was booming at the time, and more farms were migrating to the Midwest. So as farmers left upstate New York, what kind of happened here? Well, They grew back into trees. So today we're about 65% forested. With more than triple forest cover in the state for the last 100 years. So my great grandfather, who his concept was, and his business was really building barns to support these farmers, and so he ran out of material to use, so he decided to get into the sawmill business so that he could produce some, primarily softwood, to build barns, and succeeding generations, we became more focused on manufacturing lumber, for a variety of purposes, but it was really to support, the farms that were here at the time, which, we still have them, but they're nearly at the scale that they were 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really well. You're like the fifth generation, your great grandfather. Um, and I don't think I've ever really asked this question before. Do you ever feel the weight of your last name?
Often, but again, it's kind of a double-edged sword. We all come into the world and get involved in different projects and passions and hobbies, and so to me, sometimes that feels like a burden, but other times I feel like it's an honor and a privilege, and it's just up to me to figure out how to carry on the tradition, how to grow the tradition. You're right, 5 generations, we've all had very different challenges, some common themes, but the world changes around us so quickly.
Yeah,
Sawmilling has also changed, but trying to keep up with all the change around us is a huge task.
for
But
sure. For sure.
it also makes it fun. It's why not challenge yourself and try to accomplish something that's meaningful. So it's a
Yeah.
great opportunity for that.
What tell me about the what's the main product? What's the bread and butter product that you do in your sleep that you're most known for?
So our primary product is kiln-dried hardwood lumber.
Hmm.
We manufacture 11 species. Sugar maple, lumber people call it hard maple, red maple, red oak, white oak, ash, cherry, and then some lesser species of hickory, poplar. So this is our primary products.
Hmm. Hmm. Who are you selling to mainly?
So it goes all around the world. This was my grandfather's initiative. Back in his day, or early in his day, my great grandfather's day, there was a lot of furniture manufacturing right here in the U.S. In
Hmm.
the Northeast at one time, and then in North Carolina. And with globalization, most of that went overseas, so our lumber sort of followed it overseas.
Hmm.
But his passion was kiln drying the lumber, which sawmills didn't really do themselves, back
Hmm.
in the World War II era, or even later. It was really the furniture manufacturers who did it to their specifications, what they needed, for furniture to be durable and what. So my grandfather got the idea of doing this himself, which also gave him the ability to ship around the world. And so we got into the 80s, and they're opening up markets in Japan and Taiwan, Southeast Asia. Get into the 90s and 2000s, and mainland China becomes a huge market. They don't really have their own native woods that they can cut. It's a
Mm.
very different, very different natural resource over there, and they
Yeah.
value our materials. So that's a big market. Europe, Middle East are big markets, but we also have markets right here in the U.S., Canada, Mexico. So really, it's the whole world that's sort of our market.
That's amazing. So you must have a lot of long-standing customers
We do,
that date back for like decades, probably, right?
right. Many of our customers go back into the 80s. We probably have some that predate that. The 80s was a big boom period, you know, for our company, for our industry. We became many times larger. But we do have customers going right back into the 80s who've relied on us for a long time to produce their products.
How many employees do you guys have?
So we're up to about 460. Wow. Seven locations.
Wow. Wow. All over New York and Pennsylvania?
Correct.
Yeah, that's incredible. And when did you decide to become an ESOP?
So this went back about a little over 20 years. My grandfather, again, you know, he'd had a long, successful career. He'd rode some highs, you know, some good markets in his generation, which every
Yeah.
generation didn't get that, but he did. But he was a tremendously hard worker, and he, you know, inspired.
What was his name?
Homer Gutchess was his name.
He
But he
he passed away.
Yes, yeah, he passed away in 2006. But
Well,
before he passed
shout
away,
out to Homer. Shout out to Homer. Well,
absolutely,
you know, this is a little thing is that it's important to say our loved ones pat like their names, you know what I mean? So Homer Gutchess, shout out to you. So yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. No, he was an icon in the industry. He was very well known. But he wanted to reward employees who had worked hard beside him and helped to build, you know, a successful company and a leading edge company in the industry. So he sold part of the business to our employees, who now own, you know, 30% of the business. So an employee of the company becomes an owner of the company and has that skin in the game, that stake. You know, they work hard, they succeed. You know, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement. Clocking in 9 to 5, they're looking for a benefit when they retire. You know, that's a substantial benefit if we can grow the value of the business.
For sure, for sure. So so it seems like Homer really just kind of like he set a lot of things in place. And when did you take over?
So I became president of the company 9 years ago,
Okay.
chairman of our board 7 years ago. So
Okay.
I've seen many ups and downs. We've had some great markets and some lousy markets and everything in between.
What what was the thing that when you took over that you realized that like, oh, this was a gap I need to start filling? Like, was it on the product end? Was it on the manufacturing processing end, or was it on the culture end? What do you think that was?
That's a great question, Steve. I think that my grandfather and my father, you know, set us up with all of their, you know, every initiative that they had was geared around product quality, you know, leading the industry with, you know, top notch, you know, timber resource and ultimately lumber. I felt right from the beginning of my tenure that we really had an opportunity to reach out to not only our customers, you know, manufacturing products out of lumber, but right to end users to try to convince them, you know, why they should use hardwoods. You know, why when you're remodeling, you know, your house, you're putting a new floor in, you're buying new furniture. You know, there are so many cheap substitutes for lumber, plastic type products, you know, which are relatively easy to find. They look kind of like real wood. And this has really been a challenge for our industry, and we've been fighting against this trend for a few decades now. So
Yeah.
to me, the challenge and the opportunity for me is tell our story, you know, to explain why hardwoods are worth buying and using, why people should be excited to use them. I feel like there's a compelling story, but like your business model, there's a gap there. We
Yeah.
haven't told, or we haven't explained this. To me, a successful tenure in my business would be to make this case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think in many ways, like I have a vision of being able to, make sure that everybody understands what real wood and having something custom made for them, like whether it's their home or their furniture, their fixtures in their house, or and it's custom made for them, and even more special if you can trace the source of where the material came from. Because I just think that there's although a lot of the composites are very, they can mimic, but I feel like the natural quality of real hardwood, or or salvaged, soft, whatever wood, natural wood, it is incredibly satisfying to be around, right? Like, not only does it feel good, there's a story behind it. And so I mean, I saw that you had your, like, an education component as part of your business. Can you talk about that, and like how did that come about?
Yeah, I'd love to, Steve. So again, we're trying to make this case, and there are many. You just alluded to it. There are many reasons to use real wood. The durability, the beauty. These are things that have been appreciated for centuries. But
Mm.
what our educational efforts are really focused on are making the case, especially to new generations of consumers, why use this material. And we feel like the real gap here is in the science. And anyone with an appreciation for combating climate change, for example,
Yeah.
what types of products can you use, one, not to further damage the environment, the planet, and so forth, but actually reverse that. Use a
Yeah.
product
Yeah.
to help cool the planet, or help draw carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And it turns out there are very few things that you can go and do which actually can accomplish this. But it turns out that hardwoods, we're the only manufacturer of a product which sequesters carbon.
Hmm.
Nobody else putting widgets together, or much of anything. There's obviously a lot of research in what can be built to do this, but trees do this naturally, and they've been doing it for 350 million years. And I think this has been known for a long time, but maybe what's not been explained very well is the difference between a managed and an unmanaged forest. If the
Yeah.
forest is managed, and logs, trees and logs are taken out of the forest, that wood is 50% carbon by weight. If we turn it into furniture and flooring and things, and use it for a few decades and then it goes to a landfill, we've sequestered that carbon essentially forever.
Yeah.
As long as it's not burned. Now, if we left that tree standing, if there were no sawmill to take that tree out of the woods, that tree would eventually die and release that carbon back into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it would also keep that forest as a very slow growing forest. A mature forest
Yep.
sequesters a
Yep.
lot of carbon standing, but it doesn't draw a lot of new carbon out of the atmosphere. Whereas if that tree goes into these wood products, what happens in that forest after the tree is gone?
Yeah.
New trees
New
rapidly grow.
trees. Absolutely. And it allows for the good trees to grow even bigger, right? Providing more oxygen,
Absolutely.
and yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's the growth of forests which really, have a massively positive climate change, much more than the standing forest. The standing forest is great, but
Yeah.
you can do better than that. If
Yeah.
you use wood, you can do much better than that.
It's more about it's about sort of actively curating the forest to pull, like, get trees when it's at its highest use, and then allowing the other ones to continue. So it's, regenerative and restorative, and, like, if done right, uh, can be a very large economic driver. Like, you have 400 people that make a living because of wood. And, like, to me, the fact that you're ESOP and you have decades and generations of people working for you, I was like, yeah, I mean, why? Like, you should be 4,000 people. In my head, I'm like, because nature provides that many more trees. Like, there's way more opportunities out there for folks. And yeah, I'm glad I'm talking to you, and I'm like poring over your website. I'm looking at all of the things that you have going on. Like, you got your own sports complex, you got a fund, you got scholarships. Like, this is really, really impressive, Matthew. This is so cool.
Thank you, Steve. It's been the work of multiple generations, and we take it very seriously. And I think, to your point, it's a cycle. We need to
Hmm.
help our communities. We need when we sell lumber to export, we're bringing
Hmm.
dollars back from other countries right into our communities. The
Yeah.
local farmer that we bought some timber from, we're
Hmm.
paying him, and that's money that we brought back into this country. So
Yeah.
so we have to we have to give back to our communities to help grow ourselves, and get our story out, and keep that momentum going.
Talk to me about what's your day-to-day look like? Oh, wait. Before I ask that, what I would talk about production flex. What are you producing on a, weekly, monthly basis, like milling, drying?
Yeah, but our sawmills produce close to 100 million feet of lumber, that's board feet of hardwood lumber per year. And we're
Incredible.
right, and that's four sawmills. And we have two, we call them concentration yards, where we kiln dry another 70 million feet of the same material. We're
Hmm.
also, we're producing things like wooden pallets. You go to a grocery store, or a box store, and you'll often see products, on these pallets. During COVID, there was this big question mark of, could we get goods, around the
Yeah.
country. So these wooden pallets were, kind of an unsung hero of the COVID time. That's a pretty unique product. Our wood chips go into to pellets, to heat homes. Our sawdust is used by farmers for bedding for their animals. So really, all of our products are used in one way, shape, or form. Biofuels, they become a big, carbon neutral, means of, supplying people with energy.
Hmm.
We have such an inflationary economy, and prices of everything are going up. Well, how do you offset that? Well, biofuels is one way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a lot of production here, but it's all used.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, I could probably dive in a little bit more into your, like, technology that runs all of this, and how, uh you know do you have, like, like, you invested a lot in technology?
We have, scanning equipment, making sure we're maximizing the value of the saw logs, which go into into the mills. We need to do that so that we can afford to buy the logs from the farmers who sell them to us, the loggers. So
Hmm.
it's important to optimize value. It's important to um, dry wood without splitting it, without staining it. Wood is it's a natural product, and so it has natural variation to it. It has to be treated, very, very carefully. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of technology that goes into the process, and it's changing all the time. Better
So
and better
cool.
optimization. So that is an exciting part of the business for sure.
Who who's doing your social media?
So we outsource that, but we're constantly looking at new messaging. Um,
Yeah,
it's there are so many stories that we can tell. We can tell,
so many. Yeah.
right, employee experiences, multi-generational families, in the industry, employees, contractors, trying to reach, again, down to that consumer, trying to tell our story, trying to, and it's not just our company, it's our whole supply chain,
Your whole
whole
value, yeah,
industry.
value ecosystem. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, this is great. I love looking at your website and all of this stuff that you have going on. It's just like between, all of the things and even the byproducts. The byproducts must be ridiculous. The mulch and the pellets and like everything. You're literally it's really cool. Hey, so okay, so this is the part of the podcast where I give you uh any marketing or business advice or anything. Is there anything that you just need to brainstorm or think through to, that something that's sort of gnawing at you that you'd like to an extra set of eyes and ears on?
Yeah, I see. I really see that challenge. There's the day to not that. There's the day-to-day business, but yeah, to me, again, we're selling, we're not making the, flooring, furniture, stair treads, moldings, doors, we're not making these things ourselves.
Hmm.
So there tend to be a few layers between us and that family, that family buying their first home, or renting an apartment and looking at how they're going to furnish it. And people are challenged, people are times are not necessarily easy, and a paycheck has to go a long way. But to me, that business challenge, that environmental challenge, that challenge for our employee owners here, comes down to reaching those people, and trying to tell the best story we can, explaining the science, explaining what it
Hmm.
is they're really doing when they buy something that's made of hardwoods. Are they really? How is that impacting the planet? And instead of
Yeah.
thinking of it in a vaguely threatening way, which I think a lot of people have done, maybe since the Lorax came out.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about it that way, think about it in terms of saving the planet. If you care about doing that, make those purchases when you can.
For sure. Well, I mean, I guess my only sort of advice would be to um you're doing a good job capturing the day to day of like what's happening, but I almost see that um you probably need some intentional storytelling in the form of series. So you could say, these are our employees in our ESOP program and the difference that it's made. And you do like 5 pieces on that, right? And then as that's running on the background, I would have a marketing strategy to get you to be a speaker at manufacturing and industrial conferences on longevity and hiring and ESOP, right? So like, so it's almost like there's two prongs. You have like an outward facing, and then there's the authority building. The next is how our products are being used, and then you highlight your customers and the products that they're using, and you literally go out to them, document, you hear them talk about, I love Gutchess, they're great, and you guys are great, and we've been partners for 30 years. And then you show them, and it's almost like you have 4 or 5 different stories and in the form of a series, right? And so the series then becomes little pieces that you can use as marketing materials. So then you have the audio, you have the video, you have the thought leadership, and you have the case studies. But then the last bit is that I think that you're putting some effort into into Instagram and Facebook. I think personally for you to like knock down way more business deals, I think that you should be an authority figure on LinkedIn. So like the fact that you're fifth generation and the fact that you have 400 employees, you're American owned, American product, American manufactured, that to me is like, like walk into rooms waving your flag, right? Walk into rooms talking about, like, I think you actually need, so like if Homer set the foundation and your father did like, I think you need to take all of those things that they put together and you need to flex way, 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 way more than you are actually doing. I think it should be so uncomfortable. You should be so uncomfortable with putting yourself out there that people are gonna be like, yo, what happened to Matthew? Matthew's like a social media star right now, and you don't even mean to be. You're literally documenting the things that have been doing for 120 years. The only difference you're like your grandfather or your great grandfather could have been way bigger had they had social media, but not they didn't have the tools that you have now. So now what I would do is like take that way further and almost like create almost I would look at like a section of your building, like down the hall from you. You probably have a space for an office, right? I would look at it like that's my media department. We're gonna create the Gutches TV. And this is what we're doing. This is part of my responsibility is like making sure payroll goes out, making sure that customers and production as well, and making sure that our stories are being told constantly. And then you have that sort of ongoing narrative. Because here's the thing. Right now, you are leveraging wood to create 7 different products. You can do the same thing with content. Content is an asset. Content is going to be the thing that's going to tell your story for the next 120 years. That's what you actually need to look at. It's like, I am investing in my next 120 years. People are going to be able to look back on 2024 and be like, this is what Gutchess was doing. This is the history of Gutchess. Because, look, I started a business 20 years ago. And I didn't have the technology that we have now. And there were so many things that we've done and accomplished, but the stories aren't there. They're trapped in my head. And so like now I'm trying to figure out, like for my last business, I still sit on the board. Like, how do I retell those stories? How do you sit back with those photos of your grandfather and just tell those stories? Not for you, for your grandkids, for your great grandkids, right? Have you read, well, last thing is, have you read the the Walmart book?
I have not read the Walmart book.
Oh man, you should read the Walmart book. And so because I guess the next thing that I should say is like you should probably write a book. Like the and the Walmart book is literally he wrote it for his grandkids. He wrote it for, and he documented the process. So anyway, is that helpful?
That's extremely helpful, Steve. I think you're
Okay,
absolutely right.
cool.
We've got all the passion in the world. We just
Yeah.
haven't used these tools the way we could and should and believe will.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. This is great. I mean, you're leaps and years above a lot of people in your position. And you've done a great job like capturing. So now it's like you need to throw more fire onto it and add an arc. You need an arc. Like these are the different touch points because you have so many touch points. So cool. All right. Is that helpful? Yeah.
That's very helpful, Steve.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
completely agree.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, tell everybody your website.
Okay, so we're www.gutchess.com. It's Gutchess.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for sharing your story with the Woodpreneur community. It's really inspiring. Yeah, millions of board feet is not a small feat, So but thank you again for your time and
Yeah,
we look
nice fun,
forward
Steve.
to yeah, we look forward to sharing your story. All right.
All right, thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate your
All right.
time.